Good morning and welcome to SEC Basketball Talk here at Southeastern 16. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Blake Lovell and Max Barr. We've got the Final Four. We've got a coaching carousel. We got the transfer portal. Whatever you want to get to today, we're here to serve you. So we'll take it all on. Lots of stuff going on.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Oh, but
So much going on that it's frozen. Frozen in time.
Frozen.
Like, this is where we want to just, freeze things in time because there's that much exciting stuff going on. I think that was sort of what we were going for there. Got to believe that's what Chris was saying. Is that accurate, Chris?
We're off to a start here. We were up half the night with tornado watches, and it is pouring like crazy outside. So I have a feeling I've reset my internet, but that may have a little effect on what's going on outside.
Yeah, Max, what time did you go to bed last night?
I actually got a pretty good sleep last night. I rewatched the Syracuse I forget the year, but the Carmelo Anthony National Championship game. I've been on a binge of National Championship games. The full games are all out there on YouTube. You can just go out, watch the full games. I've been binging them. So I watched that one, and then I watched the Kentucky versus Notre Dame 2015 Elite Eight game. Boy, was that a good one that I forgot about. Woo! Yeah, but then I got a pretty good sleep. I've just been binging old championship games.
Yeah, you're a little too enthusiastic for me this one, okay? I went to bed at 3:30, woke up at 6, have made a couple trips in the flood out here to retrieve a child after taking him there and then realizing, well, I'm not going to be able to get back to get him because the roads can't be seen at the moment. So all kinds of chaos around here. People in the Nashville area know what we're talking about. Hope you guys are okay. My goodness, what a night that was. I mean, Nashville, south of Nashville, Kentucky, it was wild. So yeah, hopefully everybody's doing okay out there. But yeah, the weather, no joke around here right now. But I'll tell you what else is no joke, and that is the people in the chat, because they're here, they're excited, they're ready to get things going. We're 2 days away from the Final Four. We got coaching carousel stuff. We got injury updates. We got all kinds of stuff going on right now, which I'll just quickly start here with the injury update. I don't know if you guys saw this, but what is it? Bruce Pearl said that Janai Broom hopefully to practice today. Hopefully will practice today. So that's the update on where things stand with the player at the top there, Janai Broom. And yeah, Skylar brings up, yeah, by the way, this is the pattern of weather here. It's supposed to do this for the next 3 days, through Sunday. So, man, yeah, it's kind of wild. But Broom hopefully to practice. That is the update, and obviously that's significant when it comes to how this thing plays out. Because like we said, we just didn't know, right? It's just hard to know exactly his full status heading into Saturday, which, again, he's going to play. I just think it's we don't know exactly what that's going to look like just based on the injury. So,
yeah, I have a question. Is that a news item or is that just business as usual with this season? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, this one was a little bit more, I don't know.
Yeah. It's Thursday before the Final Four. Everyone's going a little bit crazy, just latching on to any news you can possibly get. Yesterday, the rumors going around the Auburn maybe media sphere, if you want to call it that, between all the burners and discords and that are out there. It got into the my uncle is a surgeon and he watched the replay and he thinks that it's a torn this based on you got all that going on.
Was this person's uncle rhymed with Miss B? Was it Chris Lee? Was the uncle Chris Lee? Surgeon?
Hey.
Doctor Lee? Checking in?
It's gotten around. No.
We wish
But,
him well.
yeah. He'll be out there. Come on. It's a Final Four. He'll be out there and he'll have 12-9 by halftime.
Yeah.
Probably.
I agree. All right. What else we want to talk about? All right, there's your show. You get 5-minute weather report and injury update, and that's it.
I've got some hypotheticals if we want to get the chat's brains rolling a little bit, or we can go into coaching carousel, whatever we want to do.
I think that's a good idea. By the way, remember, we are going to do a watch along for the Final Four on Saturday for game number 1, Auburn and Florida. So if you want to watch the game with us, you can do that by joining the It Just Means More tier here at Southeastern 16. I'm going to drop the link to that in the chat. I know this link, when you pull it up, will be like send you to a desktop version, even if you're on a mobile, but there's a reason for that because this is really the easiest way to join. So I'm going to put that there if you want to join in on the watch along for Saturday's first game. We won't do it for the second game. We'll do it for the first game because it's Auburn, Florida. You can do that. So hit that join button. Hop on in, watch the game with us, and we will be as synced up as possible when it comes to that. So, by the
Salty
way,
Tiger, don't worry.
We'll take care of this. We'll have this in another video like we're doing with all the top transfers. So why don't we do that, Max? I think you share some thoughts quickly if you want to on him, but we're also going to do a full video on it. So
loading up on freak athletes between 6'6" and 6'8". Now you got Bashir, Chad Baker-Mazara, and Hall all coming back. Hall capable of playing the 3-4, but honestly, he's such a freak athletically. He could get all the way down to the 2 and just be an absolutely massive 2. He's got some of the nastiest crossovers and just explosion athleticism I've seen on highlight tapes this portal cycle. We'll get more into him, but just literally based off of his SEC level athleticism and explosiveness, something to be excited about right off the bat.
And there's your teaser for the video we have coming up on him. All right, Final Four hypotheticals via the one and only Max Barr. Max asked me before the show, he said, do you want to know these beforehand, or do you want me to just hit you with them during the show? I was like, are you kidding me? Of course I don't want to know. Let's get them. What do you got?
Okay. So, and guys, also in the chat, if you have Final Four questions, hypotheticals, little nitty gritty stuff, drop it in. We'll get to it. Okay. So, hypothetical number 1 for the Final Four. And this goes to everybody. Chat, you can answer too. The game goes into overtime. All right. We are headed to free basketball. All right.
Oh, boy.
For Auburn. All right. Dylan Cardwell has fouled out. And then the guard with 4 fouls is Miles Kelly. All right. So Cardwell's out and Kelly's got 4 going into overtime. All right. For Florida, Chinyelu, he's fouled out. Too many. And the guard with 4 is Will Richard. Okay. So Dylan Cardwell's out. Ruben Chinyelu's out. The 2 highest foul rate guys in the front court. And then I just picked a random secondary guard in the backcourt. So Miles Kelly with 4 and Will Richard with 4 going into overtime. Who do you trust more? What supporting cast do you trust more in an overtime game in the Final Four if their defensive enforcer is out? Because it's very possible if it goes to overtime, the likely person to be fouled out for Auburn would be Cardwell. For Florida, it would be Chinyelu. Which changes things.
I know this is going to surprise everyone, but Salty Tiger's going to go with Auburn on the response there. Just kidding, Salty Tiger. I understand. I think there's an argument for Auburn. Chris, what's your thought? I think you have a direction.
The wheels are turning. 2 thoughts. I think that Florida's got more front court depth by that much than Auburn, but I also think Will Richard's the best player of the 4 that you mentioned. That's what makes it tough.
It is tough.
Boy. I don't know. I don't know. Because then you've got, well, Denzel Aberdeen's there too.
Yep.
Boy. Flip a coin, literally.
Okay. My answer was going to be Florida. I would trust Florida a little bit more just because of how important Cardwell's defense is. And I feel like Florida would be able to shoulder the loss of Chinyelu a little bit more than the loss of Cardwell defensively. So.
Yeah, because I mean, Cardwell can, we've seen it so many times. Like he's someone that, yes, there may be a big man that steps out and he's guarding him, but then if he gets switched off onto somebody that's driving the ball, like he's pretty smooth in terms of just his ability to just seamlessly switch off to somebody and guard them all the way into the paint and then do what? Block a shot. Like, smaller guy tries to take a shot over him. And I think, so yeah, that would be a significant scenario where it's like not having that, given the setting, given who's still on the floor for the other team. I think, that's I'd probably still go Florida to me because I just think it's, and that's the thing too, right? All right, let's think about this. If Florida didn't have Hen Logden right now, how much differently would you view them just from an overall depth standpoint? Because if you're asking that question, he's there, right? And if he's not there, then that answer gets a lot more interesting, I think. But just by having that one extra guy that you just all of a sudden are plugging in a 7'1" or whatever guy, for the tournament run, like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of that's just one of those things that I think. And I mean, let me just pull this up too, because I think this is worth discussing, like when it comes to him. But I mean, if we look at the role he's played since he came back, all right? So first game back was South Carolina, February 15th. So he's played a month and a half now, basically. Let's see. He's only played, I mean, he's had a couple 20-minute games. Like Texas Tech, he played 11, 8 against Maryland, 11 against UConn, 17 against Norfolk State. So in the biggest games, like he's not played more than 11 minutes, right? But I'm like, okay, he had 4 rebounds, 3 rebounds, 2 rebounds, an assist, a steal, another steal, like 3 for 3 from the floor, 3 for 3 from the floor, like 1 for 2. Like, so and again, that's not even adding in some of the defensive things that aren't measured in block shots. So, yeah, I think that's another interesting question to think about. But
well, this is why I had so much trouble, and I went to do a little fact checking as we're talking, just to see something. Of all the guys in this game, do you guys know who had the highest usage of their team's minutes this year? All the players in this game for your team. Percentage of minutes. So that takes out. Well, I guess it does count the games where you're injured, but I'm not sure. But anyway, this guy was on the floor the most among either team.
Is it one of the Florida guards?
It is.
Elijah Martin?
Nope.
Well, it's only 2 other options.
Well, it's Clayton, but here's what I'm getting at. Clayton was 32.5 minutes a game. Richard was 31.4. He's the second most used player in the game. And one reason I'm big on minutes, guys, I do think the stat sheet tells you some things, but it doesn't always tell you everything. But what minutes tell you is the coach going, hey, with all the stuff this guy brings to the table, I don't want him off the floor. And he played more minutes than Elijah Martin this year. Not by a lot, but I have maintained he's probably the most underrated player in the league this year because he does everything well. Now, he is kind of grown on people and maybe moved on from the category of criminally underrated where he lived for a year or two to most people know about him, but most people can appreciate you as a good player and still underrate you. So anyway, that's where I got hung up in your question is I think Will Richard is such a good player. And the way Todd Golden used him, says a lot.
Shawnee D-Man says he could see Auburn playing Turtle Hudson in this game. Turtle has not played in the past 3 games, but the 3 games before that, the last 2 of the SEC tournament, and then Alabama State to open March Madness, 4 minutes each. We might see a little Turtle sighting. Turtle sighting. These guys know I always text in the chat whenever we get Turtle out there. Okay, so flip that to the other side of the bracket. We got 2 overtime games. The best Final Four ever. Double overtime. And both. All right. Duke Houston goes to overtime. The immovable object, JoJo Tugler, was a little bit too aggressive there, and he has fouled out. The force for the Cougars. Kaman Maluash, the great rim protector for Duke, is no longer available. He has also fouled out. The 2 enforcers for each team, Maluash for Duke, Tugler for Houston, they're both out. That rim protection has opened up a little bit for the extra 5 minutes in San Antonio. Who do you feel better about, Duke without their anchor or Houston without their main man Tugler?
Duke.
Is it as simple as Cooper Flagg is good enough to...
Not even just him. I think the combination still of what you're getting with them.
Chris, any thoughts on one way you would sway? No Maluash, no Tugler. Any advantages opening up?
I think I still like Duke to win the game, but I think it shifts it a little bit more towards Houston. I mean, Maluash is such a good grief. He's a big-time talent. Not that Tugler isn't, but you know what I mean. He's when you got a guy that big with that wingspan, that not everybody's got one of those.
And I agree with you guys. I would still probably think Duke. However, now let me take this to hypothetical 1.5. It's not Maluash. It's not Maluash. It's not Maluash. Mother Carol says Flagg.
Houston
fouls out.
Houston.
Then you would go to Houston. Okay.
And again, it's the impact of how you guard them. Like not that some of these other guys can't score, right? But it's just like you get to approach it in a much different way. And I think that it's just sort of, I would say, I'm going to be honest with you, maybe proven wrong here, okay? But as the days go by, I like the Cougars more and more. And I know, like, I'm just telling you, I do. And I am, like, one of these games is going to get us, meaning that, I can look anywhere other than just, again, fans who are supporting their team. I can look everywhere, it seems, and it's just Duke, Florida, Duke, Florida, Duke, Florida, Duke, Florida. And I'm like, I don't even think people are considering the idea. One of the things was asked yesterday was legitimately, hey, who's going to play Duke in the championship? I'm like, well, hold on a second. I'm not completely convinced that, even though I picked them to win the thing and all that, like, I'm not convinced it's just going to be Duke. I mean, and I brought up all the things about Clemson having some of those traits that proved that you can beat Duke, and Houston is better at those traits than Clemson was. And so I'm just like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I did a radio 2 days ago, and a question got asked to me. Okay, so who would you rather have playing Duke from the SEC? Would you rather have it be Auburn, or would you rather have it be Florida? I'm like, let's take a step back here. So
yeah, I think the interesting part, like Con Knipple, like any other Duke team without Cooper Flagg, he'd be one of the talks of the tournament. I'm not saying he's not getting his due, but like he's got some of those elements of take over a game type guy too. So I do wonder, like, if something happens to Cooper Flagg, could he? I mean, although we did see that against North Carolina in the ACC tournament, they barely win without Cooper Flagg, whereas they've just been dominating everybody and everything. So I think that's the right answer. I think certainly it shifts a lot more towards Houston and maybe flips it entirely. I don't know.
So, before I get to my next hypothetical,
Wow,
Brock,
you had 2. We're at the number 4 now.
guys,
I think we
This
had
is
a
great.
half one in there somewhere, Blake. Come
I'm
on, man.
excited.
yeah, there was
Excited.
also hypothetical 1.5. Yeah,
Bonus round.
Brock's getting put on the spot here. I apologize, Brock, but Blake, I feel like this is backing up your point as well of just about how this is the narrative. Duke is winning it. Doesn't matter. They're too good. Okay, Duke, this team that is amazing, who we all picked to win the game in the preview
I picked
video.
Duke to win the national championship before this thing started. I have not changed my pick yet. So
there you go.
Yeah.
They played North Carolina the last game of the regular season. This was March 8th. North Carolina had a 7-point lead in the second half. The game after that on a neutral court, March 13th, like a little bit over 2 weeks ago, Georgia Tech is up by 9 with a few minutes left in the first half when Cooper Flagg twists his ankle. Now, obviously, you know that Duke came back and won both of those games, but these are deficits that happened just not too long ago. They have looked unbeatable in their matchups in the tournament, but the narrative that they've just been completely untouchable is false. If you actually filter Bart Torvik for just the month of March, Houston is ranked higher than Duke. So the eye test is not everything. Do we want to go on to hypothetical 2.0?
Let's go to 2.0.
Well, I want to add a footnote here. Because
I forgot. Yeah.
Sorry. I asked a question late in the season. Duke has been dominant on paper, but we've had our fun with the ACC all year, and playing that schedule was nothing like playing what the SEC teams played this year, and not on the level of the Big 12 either. And so I said, are we sure Duke is what Duke looks like? I mean, I think so, but let's see him get tested. Duke has now beaten 3 preseason top 10 AP teams in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, Baylor was preseason number 9, Arizona was preseason 10, and Alabama was preseason 2, and handled Alabama with ease, and Baylor too. Carry on.
Yeah, which
Baylor
is why
stinks. Arizona stinks. Alabama was a bad matchup. Cougars all day.
Well, I mean, it was just, I don't know. I think this is why we tried to just make it clear the other night. Like, come on. We can talk all we want about the ACC, but if you're watching Duke and not thinking that they're just absolutely incredible at times, then I don't know what to tell you. It's not just about the opponents. It's about how good you are and how skilled you are, and they're just fantastic. So we'll see how it's played out, or how it's going to play out in these games. I'm going to get to a couple quick things, and then we'll get to hypothetical 8.7. Yes. All right, here's Salty Tiger's hypothetical. His hypothetical is that Auburn beats Florida and plays Duke after Cooper Flagg steals the National Player of the Year, and Vroom, who I'm going to assume is Broom, but Vroom, I kind of like that better, drops 40 and 20 because he had a chip on his shoulder. Janai Broom going for 40 and 20 in the national championship game. We could all see it. So, all right, Max, see if you can top that.
I like it. I like that. Yeah, that's might have that in the first half. Okay, hypothetical 2.0. This is it is a hypothetical of if the opposing coach implements a make somebody else beat us game plan. Okay. So the primary scorer gets schemed out of the game. All right. Not like he shoots 2 of 20 and has a horrible game. Gets schemed out of the game. Okay. Takes Broom out of the game. They send relentless doubles at him. They do not let him get to the low block. They completely take Broom out of the game. Okay. And then flip that. Florida takes Walter Clayton out of the game. Denver Jones, they're sending different stuff at him, hard hedges. They are doubling him at the top. They are not letting Walter Clayton get to what he wants to do. Who do you feel better about, the supporting cast, if the coach says, we are taking you out of the game, it might sacrifice some open spots, but you're not beating us?
All 4 teams on the board here?
Yeah, so if you want to do Duke and Houston, it would be Houston schemes flag out, and Duke does not let Cryer get off anything. Just kind of the opposing scorer, the lead scorer of the opposite team gets schemed out of the game. Who do you feel better about, like their supporting cast can win it for them? I feel like that one's a little bit more realistic than my overtime.
Yeah. Blake, do you want to go first or do you want me?
You want me to go first because you're like, I don't know if I feel about
No,
this.
I have an answer. I'm just
well, then go
offering you
ahead.
the
Then I'll
courtesy.
give you mine.
Okay. I think Florida is best equipped to handle it. A lot of it because Elijah Martin's been on this stage before, and we talked about Will Richard. He's a guy that can do it. I mean, I think that's my answer. I think Duke without Flag, ton of talented parts, but he's kind of a one of one. Auburn is the one to me that's interesting because, like, you've seen games where Miles Kelly or Tahad Pettiford just get on a roll and they are unstoppable. But Houston doesn't let you get off a lot of threes and is really efficient at defending it when you do.
Now, here's the thing. Are we talking just from a scoring standpoint or an overall? Yes. Okay, just scoring. Okay.
Yep. Takes their offensive production out. They really do some aggressive things to take the opposing lead scorer out of the game. They really make an effort to.
Well, it's a neutral court game, which means I know Todd Pettiford's getting me at least 10. So I can start there with Auburn. I know he's going to get me at least 10 points because it's just what this guy does. I mean, Martin obviously can score. Richard can score. Sir Thomas H. can score. If Aberdeen hits a 3, your question is irrelevant because Florida's going to win. Condon can score. Meanwhile, with Auburn, like I said, Pettiford can score. Baker Mazar can make shots. Kelly can make threes. Denver Jones can score. Chaney Johnson's played well. It's tougher than I thought it would be, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, like, it comes into play of, like, do you get Chaney Johnson, who's kind of, like I said, I mean, we've seen him kind of have those just breakout type games. And then on the other side, like, I think it comes down to Chaney Johnson and Tommy H to me. Like, because, I mean, if you're feeling like Baker Mazar is going to score, Pettiford's going to score, Miles Kelly, like, those feel pretty good about that, right? And then on the other side, like I said, it's going to be hard to not let Martin, Richard, Condon to get some of theirs. So, I mean, honestly, when I look at the numbers, Auburn may have the better path to solving that equation. But, because I think they may have one more guy. But, I say that and I'm like, that's just because Aberdeen only averages 8. And it's not like, so...
That's yeah. All right, so Blake, you led me to my answer for that one. I would go with Auburn. If Walter Clayton gets taken out of this game, which is, guys, we're just having fun here,
right?
Doing some hypotheticals, but if that happens, I think Auburn has the depth of scoring, just a little bit better than Florida would without. If Clayton would get taken out of the game. And like we've seen it from Chaney before, and not that we haven't seen it from Florida, but I was just thinking, like, and say they don't get taken out of the game, say they're equal, right? Like they both give the same amount. Like, who around them do you have more confidence in? And if you want to equal out the starters, it leads that last backup guy in the backcourt it's Denzel Aberdeen, or it's Tahad Pettiford. And I think I like Pettiford a little bit better.
I mean, or it's Klapsar coming in and just knocking down threes the same way he did last time, right?
Oh,
so, I mean, this could be the ultimate Klapsar game. You know?
Did we just get Klapsard? We just got
We
Klapsard.
may have. I mean, I'm just saying though, right? Like that's why this game's so fascinating, because on the flip side of that, guess who's been in this position more this season? Auburn or Florida? Auburn. They've played games without Broom. They've won games without Broom. Like,
that's true.
Look at what they did down the stretch, right? They made big plays against Michigan State when he went out. So, like, maybe that throws Florida off a little bit more because they've not been in this position. Like, oh no, our guy's not scoring. Start to take a few more bad shots.
Yep.
Start to press a little bit. Meanwhile, Auburn's like, well, we've been here before. We've played 40-minute games before without him. You know, we've played stretches in the NCAA tournament. And again, without him, meaning, you know, hey, just the contributions aren't there. He's getting taken out of the game like those. But again, we're playing the ultimate hypotheticals, but I think you could have fun both ways with that. So,
well, and I know it wasn't exactly the question you asked, but Florida went into Auburn without Elijah Martin, and before they'd brought Logden back, and handled Auburn easily that day. So that's a team that also has shown ability to get through games no problem with a couple of key guys out.
But not Clayton.
But not Clayton. And that's
Not
true.
Clayton.
Like I said, with the
That is
twist.
true.
But
All right.
Elijah Martin would be Batman on most teams.
This game could be scheduled for Saturday of 4 years from now, and I would still find a way to flip-flop who I think is going to win every day until then.
The emotional hedge is already in play, please. I've already bet on both Auburn and Houston because I'm like, you know, based on who I picked, come on. I don't have a choice here, right? So, yeah.
Everything I know about this sport tells me a dog is winning in this Final Four. Everything I know about this sport tells me a dog's winning.
And everything you know about this tournament tells you it's not.
That is also true.
See, I think that is having a little bit of an influence on how games are being viewed. Back.
Nope. Uh-oh. Oh, no.
See, the gods didn't like that. There's going to be an
Favorites
upset.
are winning these games
There's going to be an
often.
upset. There's going to be an upset. There's going to be an upset.
The focus of Vegas and everyone else has realized that, they didn't like to hear that at all. They didn't like to hear it. So, hold on. I had something pulled up here.
If Oreo chimes in, that'll make it official. I think he's too tired. He stayed up half the night, worried about tornadoes.
Well,
Anyway,
I'm going to look
Carol.
back at this show and not even know what I said. But it's all right. You haven't kicked me off the air just yet. I don't know if we talked about this, but I think you started this, Matt. I think it's a good point. Like, yeah, like to me, and when I brought him up, I wasn't even looking at the chat, but like the Chaney Johnson impact on this game, I think is significant. So, man, like, because we've kind of talked about it. Like, it's just, I think he's, I mean, let me pull up the numbers here because I think this is worth a quick talking point on him.
Oh, yeah.
Just because, you know, he's made some big plays. And, like, that's the thing. It's like he's not, I mean, the tournament, right? He scored 8, 4, and 8 the last 3 games, but he's played 25 minutes all those games, played 28 against Alabama State. But I just feel like he just brings so much to the table from more than just the standpoint of, like, all right, you don't need him to score 15 points. But it's just the other things that he's been able to do. For like in big moments, he hits Michigan State game specifically. I feel like he hit what was that? There was at least one big basket he hit during a stretch towards the end. But, he had that stretch before the tournament where he was not, 5 games here, 5-game sample size before the NCAA tournament. 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 4 points, 3 points, right? So kind of hit that stretch where it was the opposite of what we'd seen the past month or so from him prior, where he had multiple or pretty much almost every game he was in double figures scoring wise. So I think he is a big part of this, and that's where when we talk about Florida's front court, man, that's if Auburn come out and get a good game from him, that'd be big. So
He's that offensive production X factor, where you look at the end, you're like, oh, yep, it was a 12-point Chaney game. Gave him a big boost. You could totally see us coming back to that. Guys, is there a world that Janai Broome doesn't play? Like, is that because that hasn't even crossed my mind. It has not crossed my mind. It has not until just like 5 seconds ago when I saw Rothstein's tweet that he's hopeful to practice. Is there a world he doesn't play in this game?
Listen, if anything this season has told us, if he doesn't play, I'm all in on Auburn. Like, all in on the Tigers if Broome doesn't play, because that's how wild it was this season. Remember, with the injuries. And the Florida-Auburn game was a great example of that. The Florida-Tennessee games. Like, there were so many examples of this where it's like, my goodness, count me in on the Tigers if he doesn't play. But, no, I think he'll be out there with a steel arm if he needs it. So, he'll be, so.
We've already got a bionic shoulder. We've established that.
Yeah, the shoulder's not real.
I have a question for you guys, just off the top of my head. Who is the X factor for this tournament? This Final Four? Because I got an answer and I got a case to build, but I want to see what you guys think before I bias your thoughts with my answer.
Player, like for
player,
any team or just this game?
In any of the four,
No, okay.
Just okay. That's an X factor. I like an X factor.
X factor would be this is a player who maybe shown a lot of variability in how he performs.
Okay.
Oh, I know where you're gonna go, but let's see who Max picks.
We spend way too much time together on these, don't we?
I know exactly who you're going to pick, so let's see who Max picks first.
Okay.
There's a lot. I mean, I don't have any one right away.
All right, Chris, just build your case. Obviously, I know who it is. Just build your case.
It's Tahad Pettiford. Is that where you thought?
I know why you're just. Keep going with your case. Yeah.
Well, because I remember during the Creighton game how valuable he was when that game got to be clutch. He's such a big-time talent, but you look back to when Auburn struggled, go back to that loss to Tennessee. He didn't score. Ole Miss game, they won, but they struggled. He got 5 points. His scoring line some nights was 4, some nights it was 21 the next night. Now, look, Auburn has got enough depth to win games even when he's not great, especially if Miles Kelly throws in 6 or 7 3-pointers, as he is prone to do. But Pettiford is a big-time talent, and he's not just a scorer. He's a ball handler, which really comes in handy when you play in Houston and some of these teams. To me, like, if Pettiford is really, really on, that might be the thing that we're not talking about enough. And if he's really, really off, same in reverse.
I mean, I think that's fair. I just think, like I said, I think at this point, I just assume he's going to score 10 or more points because he's done it now in 16 of their 22 neutral/away games this season. And that's where if he doesn't, then that's a dramatic difference based on what kind of the norm has been with him. So, I mean, I think that can be a good choice too. Just knowing, too, I mean, I think, man, not to say Denver Jones isn't going to score in this game, but you better believe his top priority is going to be defending. They got to have, a usual Denver Jones type performance defensively, which you would feel pretty confident that can happen. It's just, can you slow down Clayton enough, right, to be able to impact this Florida team? So, Yeah,
one for the other game, I think for Duke, probably Sion James, just because when you're thinking about what Houston's going to try to do to them with the physicality and the guards, Duke's got the height advantage everywhere. They don't have the physicality advantage everywhere, but Zion James, they most certainly do. He's like one of those guard enforcers that can take that punch Houston's going to give him and punch him right back. If he picks up some foul trouble or something and he's not able to be on the court, major advantage to Houston when I feel like most of the talk is going to be around all the freshmen. Zion James in that game is going to be extremely important just with the physicality and all the bruising that's going to go on in that game. James going to be really important.
What if it's Clavsar? The guy has played. He didn't play against Texas Tech. 3 minutes against Maryland, 2 against UConn, 13 against Norfolk State. But if you go back, his best 3-point shooting game of the season came against Auburn. Mm-hmm. What if he's like the Ansley Almanor regular season versus Tennessee? What if this is just the kind of team that all of a sudden he gets thrown in, hits a couple threes, look out, right? Hey, you're going to use everybody at your disposal in a game like this. It's the Final Four, right? So, Sean, I'm coming up with some things here. We're talking hypotheticals. And
well,
the Ansley Albanor thing to me is still just,
yeah,
like it's just come on. So,
did Clavsar come out and have a huge game at any? Like I know, like Auburn game, he was big, right? Was that the game where he started hitting shots and we're like, what is going on here? But that's when they were without Martin. So I'm just wondering, like, is Clavsar a factor?
Well,
unless something happens to right.
He's not played at all really in the tournament. But I'm just saying, like, this is kind of one of those games. We brought up the Hudson angle earlier, right?
Yeah.
Like, what happens if you get to that point where it's like, all right, we need to throw a different look. We remember there were some possessions last time that we got this guy open for shots and he knocked them down. Again, it's Thursday. We're trying to find so many fun things to work with here, but we know how this goes in these Final Four games. You're going to get like some of these weird sort of things that are going to develop, and you're just like, oh yeah, we should have known. Like that would be a possibility. Like this guy just came out into so. Again, I think the likelihood is probably low, but if we're having fun with hypotheticals, like let's use the entire roster and see what we can come up with. We could do this for hours. So, oh boy.
I'll give you one even further off the radar than that, just for fun.
All right, we still got to talk about coaching, by the way. We're 42 minutes in, and we got 18 minutes before we're out of here, so we got to talk coaching and whatever else we had on the agenda. But let's go.
See if you can get it. I mean, like further off the radar than that. But this guy has played a big role on teams before.
Before. I have no idea.
This guy just disappeared. JP Pegues. Like, you know.
Oh. Yeah.
Like, if we talked about JP Pegues in 4 months.
I hadn't played.
I know. And that's how deep Auburn is. But, like, that guy just, like, he played 31 and 34 minutes the last couple years. He was involved in the Virginia play, was he not?
Yeah.
Where they had the last second flurry. And like he was a dude and he can't even get on the floor. Even with fights on planes and stuff like that, he's not playing.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
Auburn fans. Man. Oh boy. trying to draw some parallels to the state of Texas here. But we know why he's doing it too, because as Matthew pointed out earlier, loves how the whole chat has different teams, yet we can all bond over our sadness about the Braves. That's why Chris, he's also joining in on that when it comes to the Braves. So, we're not going to get him started on that. But, okay. By the way, Salty Tiger, yeah. You guys already put the kiss of death on Florida. Thanks, by the way. We did do that, didn't we?
We did.
But we'll see. All right. We've got a $10 super chat here. Johnny Man here. Something to watch in the Auburn game is how long a Florida scoring drought will last. Past 3 tournament games for Auburn, their opponents have gone on the droughts. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's like with Florida, they can have one of those stretches like that against Texas Tech where, like, it's like the meme, just poking, grabbing the stick and do something. But then all of a sudden when they do something, there's nobody else that can do that, right? It's like they go on this just wild run. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We've said all season, the Auburn defensive element to this has been something that, with all the talk about the historic offensive numbers at times and all that, like their defense is what, to this point, right? They've not given up more than 70 points in this tournament. Alabama State 63, 70 for Creighton, 65 Michigan, 64 Michigan State. So I think their defensive element here, especially against a team like this, that's going to determine wins and losses here in the Final Four. So
if I'm on the Florida staff, I'm starting Denzel Aberdeen and drawing up 3 straight threes for him the first 3 possessions. Having him knock one down and then just sitting back. Just sitting back.
Just first play. I think first play of the game, he should be on the floor, run a play for him. If he knocks down the 3,
just
sit back.
Simulate the simulation.
Start scouting. Start scouting the next game. just go ahead and look ahead and be like, all right.
What's this? Is it 25-0? What was the stat you rattled off the other day?
Let me make sure I got it right, because it's 24 and 25. Yeah, 24-0 when Aberdeen hits a 3, 25-0 when leading at halftime.
Man.
Wow.
The Gators.
All right. Okay. Let's get to some coaching stuff. We've 45 minutes. We came into this being like, you know what? Do we have that much to talk about when it comes to the Final Four? Are you kidding me? We just filled 45 minutes worth of quality time. Not all maybe quality, but I'll tell you this. Remember, if you want to join the It Just Means More tier, we've got our watch-along coming up for the Auburn, Florida game on Saturday, I guess weather permitting, internet permitting. But that's the plan, so I'm going to drop the link to the join there. You can watch the game with us. We're not going to have the game on the screen, but you can watch us react in real time to the game. So that is... that's the plan for Saturday for that first game. Then, of course, we'll go live for the public afterwards. And we will also most likely go live after the Duke-Houston game. Yeah.
Yep.
Quality. Quality performance there. All right, Max, you also have hypotheticals for the coaching carousel, I hear.
I do have one.
All right, before you get to that, you know my favorite thing this time of year is to look at message boards when it comes to coaching searches to really get a sense of what the fans are thinking, all right? And I found the gold over at our friends at TexAgs. Are you ready for this? So, this is the best reply in a message board I've seen this coaching cycle for the Texas A&M Aggies. So the title of the thread is Hire Luke Murray, who we talked about. Luke Murray, UConn, assistant there. Obviously, hey, up and coming guy, like rising coach and all that, okay? So, this is my favorite. So, we get a little bit further down the chat here. Everybody's discussing whether they would hire Luke Murray or not. And then, Max, here comes the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Are you ready for it? Quote, Bill did some great work with the Toon Squad, so maybe he could help put us a roster together. So, of course, Bill Murray, we all know, the father of Luke Murray. So we have one Texas A&M fan noting Bill Murray's outstanding job with the Toon Squad. So maybe that would help Texas A&M build a roster, which I think is that's a good point. So I didn't really think about that angle, but
he has
something to consider.
Big time game experience.
Yeah,
star power experience.
If you can beat the Monstars, I think the SEC is loaded with Monstars these days. So I like it. I like where the head's at for A&M and Luke Murray. So, all right, hypothetical. Here we go.
Okay, it isn't a hypothetical, but more of just like an observation. And is there anything to it? So Jans has been in the lists of potential hires for A&M. My question is, does Mississippi State's current transfer portal approach make you think maybe Jans is going to be the next coach at A&M? Because now what made me think of it, not because I think like, hey, I don't know these coaching carousel things as well as you guys do, but A lot of guys transferring out. There's been no known transfers coming in or even targets or anything like that. Clary's out, Nwoko's out, Adrian Myers is out, Fuamana's out, and then yesterday, Riley Kugel's out. 2 days ago, Josh Hubbard to the NBA. Losing Cam Matthews. That right now, the only returners are Kashawn Murphy and Sean Jones, and then Guy Chol, Del Warren, and EJ Payman. They do have some freshmen coming in. However, just the amount of guys, mass exodus, and nobody coming in made me think like, could it be Jans at A&M? That's kind of my pitch, and now just tell me if I'm an idiot or not.
Well, no, I think he could absolutely be a top option, especially if you're at this point. I mean, think about the names that have been thrown out there, right? So I'm thinking about this yesterday. I'm like, Jans, all right. Is it an upgrade going from Mississippi State to A&M?
Yeah.
In terms of basketball job standpoint, right? I mean, I think it's an interesting discussion because, like we said, I think, and this is one of the things to consider, right? At A&M, are you ever going to be the number one thing? No. Football is always going to be the number one thing at A&M. And that's why I think Buzz moving to Maryland was not that shocking because you do have a chance to go be the it thing at Maryland, right? I don't think it's just going to football teams had some success, but I don't think it's going to be the way it is at Texas A&M. Mississippi State, I mean, it's, you tell me, Chris, what's the number one sport by far at Mississippi State?
Right now, I think it would have to be baseball. I mean, I think football is always the answer every place, but baseball is a big, big deal there. But
there's less of a gap, right, with football, whereas at Texas A&M, there's a big gap there between football and basketball. So I don't know. Again, I always think it's just kind of it's situational. And I think if you asked a lot of people would maybe say that A&M is just simply a better job than Mississippi State basketball-wise. But there are so many things that go into that. I don't think it's as easy to list those kind of things anymore because there's just a lot more to it. What's your NIL situation? What's your backing from, the AD and the administration and all this other stuff? Do they care? Are they really, it's all that. So, I mean, I think Jan should be one of their top options because I think if you're looking at the pool of candidates they may be choosing from, I think he would be an interesting one. We talked about Steve Forbes being mentioned as a possibility. Guess what? If I'm not, but if you're looking at it from Steve Forbes' perspective at Wake Forest, what significant development has happened this offseason that would make you sort of be like, oh boy, is this really, can we compete at the same level as some of these other schools that we're competing against? What's happened? There's a couple things actually.
The Big Ten and the SEC's power grab. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, not just that, but who got hired at NC State?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade.
Okay, so guess what? Guess what NC State's about to do? They're about to spin, right? Now, who else is in that geographical area with Wake Forest?
Yeah.
Duke, North Carolina, NC State now with Will Wade. There's a lot of, and again, I don't know Wake Forest's NIL situation or anything like that. I mean, no clue. But it is kind of one of those things, though, right? If you're looking at this from these coaches' perspective, and that's what you always have to do when you're looking at these coaching searches. It's not just, all right, the team that has the opening, let's look at their – no, go look at kind of what the job looks like now, 5 years down the road at these other places where some of these guys are at. And just see, how do they fit into the picture? I mean, look what Louisville's done so far, right? The ACC's making big moves. Not the SEC wouldn't either, but it's if you're someone in the ACC at one of these schools, or if you're one somewhere else, and you're looking up saying, are we willing to make that kind of commitment? And if you don't feel like you're getting that, then obviously wouldn't be surprised if you're linked with other jobs, right? Especially maybe at an A&M where maybe this is the time where they realize we gotta go all in here. We got to get some money out there and make this happen. So I don't know. It's I'm never surprised by anything, especially in this era when it comes to coaching searches, because you don't know what the financial situation can look like for some of these schools and how it plays out. So
you mind if I play the other side of that coin. Just going to throw a couple things out here and see what you guys think. What is the number one killer of good coaching careers?
I don't know where you're going.
Unrealistic expectations.
Okay.
Okay. Step number 2 here. But there's another side to that.
Uh-oh.
You've got resources. You've got team winning games. That's already started on 6.
Oh, you're cutting out.
For it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Of course.
Say it again. You're good now. Say it again.
What was the last thing you heard?
That's a great question. I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we should start doing. We should get like one of those text things. So like when we just like put the live captioning on, and just see if it can pick it up. Like I don't know if that would work, but
it would come in an alien text.
All right, you're good now. Go fast.
Okay.
Real fast.
There's been a little bit of an undercurrent that maybe the ACC. I've heard this with one particular coach. Maybe it's better.
Just keep going. Again. Don't stop.
Maybe it's better to.
Oh, it's chalked.
All right. Well, we're going to take your word for it. We're going to take your word for it.
Lord.
So we'll play the hypothetical game later. We've played that game a lot today, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. Any other names we should be thinking about, Max, when it comes to Texas A&M on your mind?
No, I mean, I think it was Bennett. I was asking what happened with all the talk of Beard to A&M. That was crazy yesterday. You had the coaching changes Twitter account saying they had Beard to A&M pinned at 95% done, and they're an account with thousands and thousands of followers. A lot of people, they got a lot of reputable followers, and couldn't have been more off there. So then you had all the Twitter back and forth between people. You don't have sources. I have the sources. No one knows what's going on. Beard staying in Oxford. What was it, a 6-year deal they signed? A new 6-year?
I think that's what Rothstein had. It was something like that. Yeah. So, all right. Chris, I think you're better now. So if you want to try one more time, we can try it.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. I think
your mic's off now.
Yeah, of course it is. Not my finest day. Sorry.
All right.
Okay. I guess it's perception. Like, yes, the SEC has more resources. It's got a lot of things, but the ACC is a much easier place to win right now. Also wanted to ask you, you don't think so?
No, I do. I think, though, that's about to change. I think that's about to change. That's my only. You're right. Right now, I agree, but like I think in the next 2 years, I think that's about to change dramatically, potentially.
Back to the Jans thing. Both A&M and Mississippi State feel like they are, like, unless you ace the test in the offseason, about to go through a little bit of a down cycle. Is that fair? With all the guys leaving. Now, again, you can build back up quickly. And at A&M, you got all kinds of money, but the results have never matched the expectations. Meanwhile, at Mississippi State, you got a lot going on there. It's not a fan base that is booster base that is flush with money like other places. Baseball's big deal, as Blake pointed out. They may be getting ready to move on from a baseball coach. Football has been in a free fall for a few years since Mike Leach's passing. So you got some external circumstances at both places that make the timing of what's going on with the basketball programs kind of interesting.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk more about it maybe tomorrow or later, depending on what happens with this search. So we're out of here.
Yep. Out of here.
Yeah, thank you for watching. God bless you. We'll see you again soon at Southeastern 16.